good morning to you listeners, good morning to viewers. Welcome to The Point. It's Monday, the 19th day of August. August seemed to be on the move,
Already.
It's been a pretty busy month. Let's say good morning to our listeners, those of you via Classic Radio, those of you viewing via GBN TV, our social media, our viewers and listeners, whether it's a Facebook page, YouTube channel, those of you also via GBN's webpage, good morning and welcome to The Point once again. I'm your host, GT. Let me say good morning to Mr. McIntyre. The last couple of Mondays seem to be doing some wonders on us, for some reason or the other. We just been not able to get it in. But we understand reasons why we couldn't have been here. But we're here this morning, so we're giving thanks for that.
Blessed for that.
We're giving thanks for that.
I realized that the trend started a few Mondays ago because the 1st of July was a Monday.
Yes.
And that was the impact of Beryl.
Yes, we had Beryl.
And from since then,
threw us off.
And we
just been that particular trend. You couldn't come in because you were in Carriacou.
And then I came back from Carriacou and we had a Monday. I think I had one with you and one with Innocent.
One of those Mondays I was unable to be here. And it's been going like that. But hopefully, we go through until the end of the year. Hopefully, once the Almighty gives us health, strength, and everything else, we could certainly be here.
Great. So it's my pleasure once again to be here, to be back on the program for those who have been anxious, awaiting my return on the airwaves, and been meeting me and saying that we miss your program. Circumstances beyond our control, GT, that we were not here. But it's good to be back and to be able to share information. In particular to that of road safety and the general risk management issues that we've been clamoring. Sometimes you think that you're not making headway and you're not meaning a lot, but when people meet you and they tell you how much you're meaning to national development in terms of information, that is, again, reassuring. So over the last couple of weeks, there has been quite a bit that has happened since we're not here. We had some natural events. As we speak, we have Ernesto.
Ernesto's out there.
That has done some damage, not tremendous damage. But
it went through the Bahamas, of course, Bermuda, and so forth, and heading up the Atlantic Canada there now for that.
And I think it has bordered aspect of the United States, southern coast as well, giving them some threats as well. Well, that's the reality of the time, and I think the hurricane season is living up to its expectation. I think there are 5 systems already gone. We're thinking that it's going to be over 20-something, basically. So this is not anything to take a breath and exhale. It's a matter of still holding our breath.
We are happy that whatever is behind now is not causing any damage. It's not only to us, but to our neighboring islands and so forth. We're happy that major is happening. We know the consequences of it. We saw how Carriacou was devastated and so forth. So we're happy. I was listening to a forecaster just this morning, and he said, we may not see any other major ones coming maybe until September. Sometime and September ain't too far away, right?
That's correct.
I maybe say September, but then September just a couple of days away if you want to check it like that. But something not too far away.
And speaking to the Director of Disaster Management, Dr. Walters, we had some discussion on Hurricane Ivan, which is the 7th of September.
Yeah.
And it's going to be 20 years date since it has gone. And I think the agency and some aspect of the region wanted to do a review. I think there was a regional symposium or something like that spoke of the 20 years after Hurricane Ivan, because not just Grenada, we had Jamaica and a few other countries that were impacted. Hurricane Ivan came through and went all the way up to Category 5. I left a trail of destruction and misery in the Caribbean. So I think on the heels of that, where we had Beryl that came almost 20 years after. And prior to Ivan, we had 49, almost 50 years.
Before we had anything.
With Janet and so forth. So I think we mentioned that in our program, the reality of climate change is saying that maybe things are happening more frequently, they're happening regularly, and the impact is even greater. But with every situation, we look for the opportunity. And this is where my field of disaster risk reduction and mitigation comes in. Now, when something happens, you do your after-action review, and you look at lessons learned, and you look at implementing those things so you can do it differently. We had Grenada that went through recent time, Ivan and Emily. And we can mark some of the things that we did differently and did better that we tested. Albeit Carriacou and Petit Martinique did not have that experience. So now we have a holistic experience where the entire state of Grenada could look at its response mechanism, its structure, its resilience in terms of housing stock, how we build. I think Hurricane Ivan did take out most of the older structures with the lime and other things, and those shoddy construction issues that we had. Now we've had a similar situation in Caricom Pitimatnik, where we had some age-old long buildings, and we've also had some shady construction built
They withstood the held up time.
Yep.
And now their time come and they realize, hey,
yeah,
Beryl was there for them this time around.
So it has given us an opportunity to do things differently. Our authority, I'm hoping that we're not going to be doing it rushed.
Yes.
While the essence of rapid recovery is necessary, but you want to not have those kind of economic setbacks by not doing things right. Because when you do it in a particular way, you have to go back and rebuild, and it costs you a lot more. So it is better to, I think we had something in disaster risk reduction where we spoke about mitigation versus expenses. And we figured, we came up with something that $1 spent in mitigation issues save you, I think, $3 or $3 to $5 in expenses later on. So if you have the expense up front in mitigation issue, while you do not see the tangibles out of the investment in mitigation, you would see the return there after years down when something has happened.
All right.
So
it's just like proper preparing for just in case the actual event occurs. Then you will be able to manage it better than trying to not preparing and then trying to manage it when you haven't been prepared for it.
Yeah.
That's where the difference comes in.
Exactly.
It's just like a simple explanation for this.
Yes, but it makes sense. Yeah. But what we've seen happening though with our nations around the Caribbean in particular, we see a lot. It is not easy to digest. I know Ministry of Finance, one of the most difficult places to get money out of is Ministry of Finance, and to get your PSs. No disregard to them. But those guys, they cut and they chop. You go to Ministry of Finance, and they would always find a reason to cut.
Yeah.
And they always find a reason.
It's their job.
I think governments, to a large extent too, find it sometimes a bit difficult to put monies up front in something that is likely to happen or may not happen. And we've seen sometimes the approach, well, when it happened, we respond and we deal with it.
We should have.
But we need to get out of that, where we put the resources up front. And when you put monies into mitigation, it's not an expense. We call it an investment.
An investment.
Because then some things you don't have to do. And you don't have to depend too much on outside countries and nations to hold your hand so much to get up. But you're able to knock down, come like Rubbermaid, and stand again.
Bounce back up again.
Bounce back up as quick
it's
as
like,
possible.
in the simple explanation, it's like you have in your home and you notice that you have a back of your house way maybe subject to a slide sometime or the other. And you say, hey, maybe I should build a back wall.
Yeah. That's right.
And you made that decision, I built it. And you see, maybe we had some natural disaster that may have occurred.
Right.
And that bottle may have saved your home from...
Absolutely.
Maybe some damage may have occurred, but
Right.
it was minimal if it was not being done.
Absolutely.
If you have not done that.
And again, speaking of the experiences and how we learn from them and implement them, even if some aspects of what we do or what has been done now could be criticized negatively, there's a lot to be commended for in terms of the initiative. And some of it spill out from how we dealt with Hurricane Ivan and what we saw that we had to have done or we did not do that we need to do differently. And still, as it happened now where Caricom Pitimatnik is affected, more than the mainland Grenada itself, I saw a lot of things that we could have done differently. And I can tell you that if we really implement and look at in analyzing what has happened, we look at what we can do differently. If something should happen in the future, we know we'd be better placed. Because one of the weaknesses of the system was that, and I saw it in the Bahamas, Grand Bahama and Abaco, where the mainland Bahamas itself was not severely impacted, but the islands of Abaco and Grand Bahama, they were impacted. And what the system failed to have done was to resource those smaller islands before the impact.
Okay.
And so their recovery was slower. And I think you may want to say that was one of the weaknesses in the system here too, that I'm sure will be looked into, whether or not Carrico should have been reinforced, whether or not they could have had pre-deployed experts before the impact, so that you could have had...
That's an interesting part.
Yes.
Because sometimes we don't see, well, it's a little Carrico, a little Petit Martinique. You understand? We see them as that. And we're not thinking maybe we have had some of course, systems occurring before, that may not have gone to that particular direction. So we
Yes.
think we're safe. You know, so
Yes,
that we have
yes,
that
yes.
natural way of thinking. We
Yes.
okay. We okay. Those particular islands are okay, but not until I could realize
Yeah.
we could have done more
Absolutely.
if we just fought in that particular direction.
So it's not a negative criticism on the authority or the agency per se, but this is what experience every crisis or every disaster or hazard. It brings a different experience and learning for you, and it opens up you open up your eye, because when you have things to deal with, there's so many things coming through at one time. There's something that get missed, and we will take it in good light. That obviously there are things we could have done differently, and we definitely need to put structures in place to do it better for future. And it helps in a lot of ways, because when you have to find the resources that are so scarce these days to do things that you could have prevented, it's really a setback.
You know, because sometimes you think of disaster management agencies, and you think maybe they are the ones that are in charge of maybe looking at these things in the future ahead of it. You know, ahead of it. And as you mentioned, the key word is the resources. The resources. Maybe there are individuals who in the management who thinking, we could have done that.
Yeah.
We could do that in the instance, and then for some reason we could have done it. We didn't have the resources or most of the times. Grants have to be offered, and on the financials and so forth have to come through government for these particular agencies, and not having those finances to help these projects implemented. And then we see when the actual incidents do occur, we see where the problem lies.
Right. So concluding on the whole issue of the systems that we're facing, we wanna again look positively and reassure the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique, and to an extent the people of the north of Grenada, that we are seeing the steps, and it's no longer just the light at the tunnel, but we're seeing things coming through. The machinery is rolling, and people are beginning to understand how to cope. And I think I mentioned before the instruments of psychosocial support that has been there helping people to cope with those situations. While the material things are okay, but your whole psyche needs to be furnished. It needs to be strengthened. I had my own share of those down moments as well, even within the last couple of weeks, processing so many different things and so forth. And I can tell you, as one of my friends was saying this morning, people who've gone through, you give the source of strength to others who will go through or are going through. And we want to say that it may seem dark, it may seem gloomy for those who are rebuilding, who are recovering now, but I can tell you the light is at the end, and there's hope. It will be better. And that's the way you need to think, that it will not be different. There has been one type of Carriacou before. There is one now that you're seeing, and you're going to see another one for the future. And the one you're seeing for the future, we want to be proud that we are part of that new process of rebuilding better and differently. And we want to be able to provide the support to each other, be each other's keeper, and not try to shaft and gouge the system where people benefit unjustifiably out of a dire situation. So we're saying, let us be our brother's keeper. Let us rally around the people who need it most.
Yes.
And let us put the resources equitably across so that our nation could be rebuilt and rebuilt better.
Do you think so that, of course, seeing the disasters that we may have gone through from Ivan to Emily, now Beryl, do you think people of Grenada, Carriacou, in the region as a whole, do you think our psyche has changed a whole lot in terms of how we look forward for when the prediction of a system coming? Do you think our psyche has changed?
I smile. I really smile for that.
I will be able to change. Or you think we're still going through that same old way, or you think people's psyche remain that same old?
It's difficult to really assess without having an instrument to measure it. You go through and find people's approach. But what human beings will be human beings. What we saw is that my analysis, quite a number of people in Carriacou and Petit Martinique, despite the amount of work that NADMA did, and I heard people speak about that saved a lot of lives and so on in terms of preparedness. But a lot of people's reaction to it was like, will this thing actually happen? Is it for real? And there are people who still say we want to experience that. And the approach across is that, well, you know what? The wind will come, the wind will fall, and we're going to get over that.
We're going to get it again, and we'll deal with it the same way that we did.
But if I had to put a grading on that in terms of how now we are dealing with situation generally, we are better positioned.
Yeah.
And a lot has happened differently and better to deal with the situation. So you will have the pockets of the complacent people, and you have the youth that seem to be having a strong voice in areas that they really probably have little or less experience.
Yes.
They make their voices heard, but they don't incorporate the experience of those who've been through it and the knowledge of the past.
Is it that they're not having the opportunity to do it, to express themselves in that particular way? You know, in terms of the experiences that they may have gone through, especially for the younger generation. Is it because you think they're not getting the opportunity to, or they just decide to just shy away from it?
I think they have difficulty in balancing the competing events, how they should prioritize. And what I find, with no disregard to the youth, though, is that the ability to use the natural ability, the grammat and other things, it seems to be shadowed by the electronics.
Yeah.
Understanding that electronics will give out what you put into them. And so when you become more dependent on it, it is saying then that you are just reacting to what they are putting out. And your ability then to analyze or to do things differently is narrowed. And that is one of the things I'm finding, that the people who become so dependent on the intangibles, the electronic means and the gadgets and so forth, the ability to process things and
that critical thinking.
Critical thinking and logical analyzing seems to be hampered quite a bit. But I think, as we've said, there has to be a marrying of the two. The youth cannot be shadowed. They must be given the enabling environment and the knowledge. But it has to be a two-way, where the experience of the past as well, they should go hand in hand. And the things that are not relevant, it is gone past. I remember one time on our program, you did ask me, Mr. McIntyre, do you think that this will really work now? Or should we really go back there or say, I don't know exactly what it is, but I remember you.
I tried to record a remark making the statement.
Yeah, and I said, well, you know what? Will that really work now? Or should we really forget it and move forward? It's a new era. Yes, I agree 100%. Is it 100%? Maybe not. But I think that there has to be, let us look to the past of what we had.
Yeah.
And how you can take from that, because you have old vehicles that have some parts that can work on new ones or good vehicles.
Yes.
And some of those parts are more relevant.
And it's even more durable than what
they make now.
Yeah.
So could you take that part from that vehicle still and put it on that new one and make it work to hold? Maybe yes. And when time comes when that is no longer relevant, then you know that you have to just
move on and
with the new parts.
And get yourself intertwined to what is available now.
The new reality.
Let's take that break, Mr. Mac, and we're coming back and continue our discussion this morning. 20 minutes after the hour, folks. Stay with us. We coming right back. Don't touch your dial. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio GBN TV.
All got our families to protect, and it means that we got to protect our communities. Let's stop the gun violence. The truth is, we all tend to suffer. No one gains, we all lose. The families are affected, churches are affected, communities are affected. Let us put on the guns and the weapons. Let us unite. Let us build a better Grenada. I am Dylan Felix, Barcelona Olympia 1992. Peace out.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
Labukan Creative Center presents the final staging of I Do at the Deluxe Cinema Grenville, Sunday, August 25th at 6 p.m. Tickets available at Labukan Creative Center, Waterford, and St. Andrew's Pharmacy at $75. It's the most hilarious comedy ever staged in Grenada. It's I Do by Uriah Speakers, Sunday, August 25th, Deluxe Cinema Grenville. At 6 p.m. Don't you miss it.
Welcome back once again, listeners. Welcome back once again to our viewers. It's To The Point. Today, Monday, the 19th of August. Welcome back, Mr. McIntyre. We're back. Moving on from our previous conversation where we talk a whole lot about, talk about Carriacou and of course, the whole risk management as a whole. We did talk about that. We still had to put a little bit of discussion in terms of road safety here on the Spice side of ours, Grenada. Because I'm always, because from time to time, was it last week on this particular program, To The Point, last Friday, and I had a caller calling and saying, man, the driving is bad in Grenada. I mean, sometimes you either say you cannot compare it to the driving in other parts of the world.
Right.
You understand? But he was saying that he had his family here with him. Came here on vacation, and he was on the eastern side of the island, or western. I can't remember which side he was on, but he was saying, man, the driving. Why do Grenadians have to drive so fast?
Right.
With the small roads that we do have. Why do we have to drive so fast? And he was actually talking about it. He said he wished folks would just change their mindset towards that. And that's what the aspect of road safety comes in there in our conversation this morning.
Yeah. So, as this program there's this aspect that is sponsored by the I'm Safer.
Yes.
Ashley McIntyre Road Safety Foundation. We believe that there's quite a bit that could be done more about road safety. And we've had the festive season Carnival just gone. So there are a number of safety issues that came up. And again, congrats to the RGPF for the
traffic department. Yes,
they've done traffic-wise and crime-wise. We were able to cover quite a bit. And for our festive events, again, in analysis through the SMC and through the police, I am hoping that the after action would look at some of the safety issues and some of the traffic issues and the accidents that we've had. Not to beat the chest of the RGPF, but a little bit of feather in the cap generally for us, that there was a reduction in terms of the amount of accidents. But not by a lot, right?
Not by a lot.
I think it's just by about 2. I mean, 60 plus.
So if there was 60, we had about 4.
Yeah, that's correct. So I think we had about 63 last year, and I think we had about 61.
It's like 61.
This year. So there are about reported accidents across the country, which is a plus to an extent. But I just thinking that 60 plus accidents across the country.
It's too much still.
Man, that's too much.
It's too much.
I mean, we can't have that amount of accidents. And when you look at the reason behind some of the accidents, we try from the foundation to come up again, as we've been doing, looking at the root causes and what kind of a corrective measures that could be put into them. So what we're seeing, and subject to what the police will say in terms of speeding, yes, speeding has contributed quite a bit to a number of accidents.
It's one of the major factors.
The major factor. But the number of accidents, the greater majority of the accidents happen to be through negligence.
All right.
And distractions. Internal and external factors of distraction caused a lot of the accidents we have seen. Again, we've not had formal report in terms of inhibiting events or things and substances that could have contributed to accidents. But in a lot of ways, if you look at where some of the accidents occur, what may have contributed to them, people going up into the back of others, running into the back of others. You
are distracted. So it's the major cause of this distraction.
Natural.
Is distraction.
Distraction.
Because if you are paying attention driving in the back of someone, just for conversation's sake, you have to see someone has stopped.
Correct.
You understand? And if you're using the proper driving tactic that you would thought in driving, of course they say after you learn to drive, you don't use it anymore.
Right.
You would see that I'm less than 20 foot behind somebody. So
right.
I may have to either reduce my speed or pay attention to someone, especially, I mean, some people vehicle may not be up to standard, brake light issues, so you may not see that. So all of that is understandable, but you may, if you're driving with that due care and attention, you will see that someone has stopped in front of you and not having the option of you running into them.
Right.
Even though the stop is sudden or not, but you could always not, it could be preventable.
So we're gonna look, and one of the things that we're pushing is for the justice penal system, or as the corrective rehabilitation system, would drive people who are found to be guilty of those minor infractions, that you send them back to school. That they
I would agree.
That they should go back to do some of these basic safety things, because the highway code, albeit is a highway code that is not highway to Grenada technically,
Yeah.
but the driving distance, your braking distance, your overall thinking distance, and all of that one needs to apply when driving. We've seen quite a number of vehicles running into the others. How are you getting that done?
Yeah.
How do you
bumper to bumper driving?
Bumper to bumper, and then there are sometimes the little rush and the little push here and so on, and a lot of markings on the street happen to be a lot of these minor accidents. So we recognize a few things. One, again, the messaging in terms of the frequency, in terms of information related to road safety, we think that need to be enhanced quite a bit. And it should not be seasonal, like when we have, and people will say that, whenever there's a major accident, you all come and you all beat up on the radio. We're not doing that today for sure.
But the problem too, Mr. Mack, I think the individuals who need to be hearing this information are not getting it. They're not hearing it.
They're not?
They're not
But this
hearing it.
program is being aired more than one time. People can hear this today.
I have the police on Thursday, which they come on the traffic department will come and speak about that also.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, individuals are probably listening to their own personal devices.
Yeah.
You understand? Which means they're not hearing us talking about this morning, because they're probably listening. Probably is some soca still for some reason.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes.
So they're paying attention to this. So maybe no, we need those display boards more.
That is where we go. That is where we are going.
You
And
understand?
really
So when they're driving, they can see, hey, this is what happened. Maybe this program in particular could be broadcast live somewhere where they could be listening to the audio being played and or something, and it grabs their attention with a visual, something visual that is more will bring their attention to these practices that they would like them to stop.
Great. So that is exactly one of the things that we were going to advocate. We mentioned it before, in terms of putting more signs and things more conspicuously placed, more obviously placed, where people, by reason of their movement, you can see it, you can hear it, you can feel it. And the messaging, the placements of the signs and the type of signs that we erect. Having said signs, correct me or help to rearrange either my knowledge or my ignorance in this. Traffic signs and signals, how they're placed and so on. Sometimes the messaging has to be right in ad and so on. You take the least of time to get to the point that you need to get the message across. So for instance, there is this sign next to the Wall Street that says, please, no parking. What is the message there? No parking.
No parking.
So what should be at the top?
No parking.
No parking.
Why the please? The please is unnecessary.
Absolutely.
In the messaging.
So just no parking. If you want to put the please, let it be at the bottom. As a matter of fact, when you put signs like that, you're not asking people or begging people to do it.
Yeah.
So that sign should send the message that we technically are serious. If it's no parking, no parking. And that seems to be a police sign.
Yeah.
It said, please, no parking. I'm asking you, they shouldn't park there, because, we have to be a bit more forceful and come across strongly with the message that even in our sign that we are serious about the issue. And that, to me, does not come across as a serious sign that people should adhere to.
Yeah.
Even if it says police notice, where it said, please, no parking. It's no parking, or no parking, please, if you want to be that kind of polite. And there is another one that I saw. It says, when you come off the cliff, there is this road sign. That road goes down the bypass that goes right into the Woodlands Rum Distillery, and the one at the top. And it said single file traffic. I don't know if that's appropriate.
Single file traffic.
Right.
I mean, me and you and
What does file
maybe
connote
understand.
to you?
But the single file, what does that say?
What is single file? To me, when you're speaking about file, you're speaking about persons.
Yes.
Or you could ask civilians to be in single file.
Yeah.
But if you
can
have
actually
traffic, there should be a single lane.
A single lane. Or you should have single lane traffic. But aren't there individuals who proofread these things before it's been distributed or put out there, these signs? Are there individuals who are supposed to be doing
Well, it
that?
should be, but in general, I think sometimes you don't really see things, even sometimes when you type stuff and you go back and realize, did I really write this?
That's
So when it goes out in public, people like us, the eyes on the issues, we need to be able to see them and highlight them so that we get more professional in what we do,
Yeah.
and we get the right message and the timely message across.
Single file traffic. That's interesting.
It should be a single lane technically. And in my opinion, if you're saying no through road and one way, there's no need to say single file or single lane anymore.
No.
Because it is a one-way traffic coming from the cliff heading towards the rum distillery.
I'm assuming they want you to read and interpret. I think I understand what they're saying. You may be supposed to interpret what single file means. You understand? You may be interpreted because you're driving. So single means one week at one lane traffic. So you're supposed to interpret. But not everybody takes the time out to be driving with that due care and attention and interpret what the signs actually mean.
As a matter of fact, one of the callers will probably chime in on this. I can see somebody actually related to that. But and as a matter of fact, that road going down that way cannot accommodate double lane anyway. So I don't know the essence of single file traffic. I think whoever put that sign there, whether it is the police or the road traffic or the Ministry of Works, they should revisit that and maybe put something that has a stronger meaning there, because obviously the condition itself, its channel, it says no traffic going through that road because it is blocked off.
Yes.
And down this way, it is a one-way.
Yeah.
One way already speaks for itself.
Single
so
file
speaking
traffic.
about single file or single lane.
We weren't ready for the callers yet, to Mr. Mark.
We were not ready. We have some things to go
We
through
have
still.
something to go through. So we're not going to entertain callers as yet. We probably in the next couple of minutes we take that.
We definitely will. So we're speaking still on the aspects of road safety and some of the things that we see and understand that we could do differently. So we just highlighted that the messaging has to be appropriate.
Yeah.
And so we need more professionals to be on board in driving the safety messages across.
Yeah.
They could be crafted in such a way that it is attractive, it is appealing to not just the motorists themselves. One of the ways the learning process and the education process will tell you as well, if you want learning to be retained, you go to the children. And if you want to get things to be a legacy or otherwise, you go to the children. Yeah. And if you want parents to also take in something easier, you also go to the children. So make it child friendly, make it to the point where they can point you out to the parents and say, Mom or Dad, this is what, and you know when children really bring things to you, it hit home more than if you find it yourself.
Agree. So you're saying simplify the language.
Simplify the language quite a bit.
Simplify the language, and for drivers on the road, easier to interpret.
Absolutely. And we have to, as I said, make it attractive.
Yeah.
And in some forms, we can get the social media and the other forms of media to be involved more in road safety. How many ads do you see on road safety apart from one or two from the police?
Minimal amount. I mean, and I would say, like, you know, for instance, the insurance companies, they could probably put out a lot more. Yeah. Besides the traffic department, could be in collaboration, you know, in areas where you know that these signs and information relating to road traffic is needed. But sometimes we see very minimal amount of it.
And when we have a fatal or so, people come up, they talk a bit, and then it goes dead.
Yeah.
But road safety is something that has to become a household and a workplace issue, because at the end of the day, if you do not have fatalities, you have maiming, you have loss of effectiveness in some members of the body, and it leads to decreased production level. It also has this long-lasting impact on the economy.
Right.
So if we are able to invest a lot more in road safety, corporate Grenada can come forward and create a bit more billboards. I did see an electronic board showed up somewhere that was giving some information relative. Apart from those commercial boards that are there advertising and so on, we need to be able to see some signs in some places. And this is one of the things through the foundation that we're trying to source, where we can identify those places and have some of these things put down. I was going to mention it at the end of our program technically as to where we're going for the new semester or the school reopening. It is our focus now, along with the police, to try to make our inroads, as we mentioned, getting to the children, getting into the schools with the safety information about our roads and so forth, and see how we can get more of the persons who need to do ads, who need to put up signs on road safety, to be able to put them across country.
It's badly needed.
Yes.
It's needed. It's needed a really.
And
bad.
as we rebuild Carriacou and Petit Matnik, if you go to Petit Matnik now, there are quite a number of vehicles on road in Petit Matnik. There are places where they need guardrails, and there are places where they need road signs, and they need education as well. And what we're doing, or what we want to be able to do in Carriacou and Petit Matnik, is to not prepare the generation there to be only in Carriacou and Petit Matnik. When a Petit Matnik comes into mainland Grenada, they come into Grand Anse with fast cars and bright lights and traffic lights and all.
With the traffic situation, it should be totally different to what they will experience.
It is totally different, but it should not be a culture shock.
Yeah.
It should be something that, even if we don't have it on island, but we become aware of it through the information process, through the education process, either through schools or community programs that are there. And to put on the relevant road signs in those areas so that they too, even if it is going to be utilized in a smaller way, but they become used to seeing some of these signs.
And they get to fit in
in terms of
in a quicker time.
Relevance of it, and to be able to be cultured in that kind of a way, so that you don't seem to be in a shell shock when you're walking in the middle of the street and you see a particular sign, you don't understand that, and looking as though you're in foreign land. We do not want this at any time to be happening to any part or any community across Grenada where somebody leave from one of the rural areas, come into urbanization and feeling that you are a stranger. Yeah. So it is our thing to try to get into those rural communities and in our further islands up to the north, and ensure that the road safety issues that they're on and they're on board with it.
And speaking in one voice on it.
Speaking the same voice, yeah, basically.
Let's take a break, Mr. Wack. We're coming right back. Stay with us, folks. We're coming right back. It's To The Point, Classic Radio. We will be right back.
They are still celebrating.
It's been 3 weeks since Hurricane Beryl tore through Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, and Jamaica. Now as the region slowly starts rebuilding from yet another climate change-induced weather disaster, there's some serious questions. Who foots the bill? What's fair? And what about the next storm that may soon roar through the region?
We also need to urgently reform the international financial system so more money and more long-term concessional loans can be provided to small and vulnerable states. I'm calling for all climate finance commitments to be fulfilled immediately. We can still make a difference.
The heat is on. The pressure is real. Every ball, every boundary, every wicket, a battle for Caribbean supremacy. 6 teams, 1 dream. The Caribbean Premier League returns, and this time it's personal. Get ready for the carnival of cricket, the rhythm, the passion, the unstoppable energy of the CPL. Get ready for the rhythms of the islands and the roar of the crowds. Biggest stars, the most passionate fans, the ultimate party atmosphere. This is cricket like you've never experienced it. Are you ready to feel the rhythm? CPL 2024. It's more than cricket. It's an experience. It's life. For your team.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to The Point here, Classic Radio, GBN TV. And myself and Mr. McIntyre, we're in this morning. Of course, we just wrapped up a bit of a conversation in terms of road safety and, of course, all the other issues that we spoke about. In this segment, of course, we'll invite our listeners and viewers if you do have a question or two that you may like to ask, or you may have, of course, some a particular position on road safety that you may want to speak about. Feel free to do it in this segment, 435-2041.
Before we take in the first one, though, and the line is going busy, we really wanted to comment on the initiative at Grand Intyre.
Yes.
And we probably will expand on the comments for that. There's something that we observe about it. And again, whether it is true or initiative of beating it up,
I think we have a role to play in that, Mr. Mac.
But we're going to speak a little bit after we take in the call.
Let's take a caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Yes, good morning. Thanks for having me. My main issue is the importance of sharing the road. It seems to me that drivers think that they have first priority. They are bigger, they are more transparent, but they need to realize, I think in the traffic code and in our laws, the roads are shared by pedestrians, by motorcycles, by cyclists, and we have to all coexist. And because the drivers or the bigger vehicle on the road, they need to understand being bigger does not mean that you dominate the road. It does not mean that you disregard pedestrians. They seem to think that a pedestrian is walking on the sidewalk and they will blow you off the road and you have to jump into the bushes or the drain. They literally will blow you off the road. What needs to happen is you stop and you make sure that you wait until the other car is passing to make sure that you can pass that pedestrian. The solution is not to blow a pedestrian off the road. Keeping up the speed that you have to slow down and find a way that pedestrian is seen as disturbance. That pedestrian is seen as an obstacle that you have to pass. So the same way that you will slow down if it's a car, or if that's an obstruction according to the highway code. If you see a pedestrian, you do what you're supposed to do when you are getting your driver's license. You slow down, you stop, and you find a safe way to pass the pedestrian. You do not blow the pedestrian off the road and that person is scrambling into somebody's yard for safety. So drivers need to understand the need. Remember how you got your driver's license. Remember the highway code. The pedestrian is also important, and in fact, they have the right of way because they are more vulnerable. Please, we need to understand you do not blow them off the road. You do not make them fall into the ditch, into somebody's yard because you want to come down and you don't want to take the precautions to keep them safe. One more thing. What I saw, Juve, the police were driving through and a bunch of jab got in the back of the police car and hijacked it. And nobody stopped and said no and fixed it. That shows the culture. It shows what we think about traffic. We have no rules. That viral, going around showing jab, hijacking a police van on Tuesday morning, that says a lot. That is not a joke. It shows our disregard for the traffic rules and the police. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. I certainly appreciate your contribution this morning.
And that last statement is instructive in terms of how people view things. While the police has been flexible in their responsibility and their role, but it's a responsibility on every citizen to show that respect for law enforcement. Even if police would understand, well, it's the festive season, would be more tolerable to some things because we could understand. But people have to culture themselves sufficiently to understand law enforcement is law enforcement and law is law and should be obeyed at all times.
And it leads to other circumstances where they will do it. Because I did it around Carnival. If we talk just for regular, I did it around Carnival and nothing occurred. So maybe I could do it at another event and think it's okay again. You understand? Yes. But I think some kind of course, stringent measures should be put into that from time to time.
Yeah. We've seen videos of other countries and other places where people gyrate and they wind up on police officers in uniform, etc. And we hope it would not be something that we want to culture and tolerate here.
Yeah.
We believe
But even
that
if that happens, occurs there, but on another respect is shown, other circumstances, respect are shown.
Yeah. I mean, I think if people come around, they come closer than otherwise, and they do some things in front of the officer otherwise, you can understand that. But when people decide to physically assault in a festival or otherwise, we would have some reservation on that.
Yeah, so
and I think, yes, while police will probably not be so strong otherwise, but we want people to be able to be respectful enough.
All right. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you doing this morning?
We're doing good.
All right. Great program. Mr. McIntyre, I have a suggestion, and I think it will help in terms of the information sharing. And this is in regard to the tires that go on the vehicle, because I have seen some of these markings in the road, and I have wondered how did these vehicles collide with one another, right? I have noticed, especially with the used tires, some of these tires, they bring in snow tires, and these tires are not for our roads based on the seasons and so forth. Even the traction of the tire and the tread wear and so forth, all that information is written on the tire. But I don't think the public is aware of that. And it's not just about road safety, but I believe if people are more aware of, how you go about choosing the tires for your vehicle, it's going to keep the landfill to not have that problem that we have where so many tires go there so quickly. So it is a suggestion, but it is also an observation, because I'm not sure if the traffic department, they take note of these things, what kind of tire the vehicle had and so forth. Some tires just will not stand up when the road is wet or damp based on the traction. So I'm not sure. What are your thoughts on that? And is that something you guys may consider?
Yeah.
Thank you, caller. Thank you.
But GT, thank you, caller. That's really, really very, very useful. It's thought-provoking as well. But the owner should not necessarily be on the
traffic department.
Not just the traffic department or the driver of you'd buy a tire, but we have what is called a Bureau of Standard.
Yes.
That should regulate as to what types of tires should be permitted in country, and whether or not that inspection process is enforced as to the standard of those tires, whether it's used or otherwise, but whether it suits the condition for road space. Because he's absolutely right. The snow type tires and the other type tire will not take the traction on the road with even your proper braking distance on those roads. So that is something that we would want to be able to look into as to whether or not these are allowed to go into circulation, because some of these tires come and they look with beads and other things like that.
And they probably just look at the beading and it probably looks decent enough to be used.
Some of them do have the specification and it will tell you where they're best used for. It may say snow tires or otherwise. But it's something that the Bureau of Standard, and whether or not, or what traffic department and the Bureau of Standard have that as a condition or a criteria for bringing those tires, whether it is new or used. Good point.
Interesting there. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
Oh God.
Caller, before you continue, I beg of you, please turn off the device.
Yeah, let me talk to you. Let me talk. You listen now?
Go right ahead, please.
Yes. I want people to understand there's quite a difference between understanding and interpretation. When you read or when you listen, you must understand. You don't have to interpret. Even if you interpret, all of us levels are not the same. So we have to write things that could communicate the exact idea as to what we're asking for. It's not interpretation. Every one of us have a different way of interpreting. Because, you see, what hurts me, a lot of us had the occasion, whether teachers or whoever it is, and all of us seem to be teachers. But we must not educate people the wrong way. If you want to say that, you must understand. When I say you, sorry. If one wants to say you must understand what you read or whether it be unwritten, board or blackboard or in the book, you have to understand what you read. So whether you have signs for traffic, then these signs must be not be interpreted, must be understood. For example, I spoke to many people. I parked by Mr. Griffith area. He claimed that the body area in the inside. There are signs they facing the roadside, saying no parking. What does this tell you? No parking on the road or in the between the lanes? What the signs should be doing, I feel, that's my feeling, the signs should be facing each other. So when you look at it, that means you cannot park within so. But telling me that I cannot park between the signs and putting the signs, no parking, on the roadside, tell me that I can't park on the roadside. And I've been charged there, and I find that is really a lot of irregularity. People must understand what they right, and people have to not even to understand what they communicated and what the people communicate. Whether it be police, whether it be teachers, a lot of us are saying a wrong thing. We read books and we're telling things, saying things that are not true. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Appreciate your contribution this morning.
Yes, and he's making a point that hinges on what we're saying in terms of when you do signs and other things, they should be relevant.
Yeah.
And some thoughts should be going to it, and it should be reviewed not by just one, but a few persons in terms of its relevance.
Yeah.
And so on.
Well, I understand him to a point when he said, the sign should be understood more than interpreted.
Yeah.
Because if you understand it, then you can interpret it, right?
Right. And if you interpret it, mean that you understood it.
And you understood it, right. So, anyway. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Morning, GT, and morning to Mr. McIntyre.
Good morning,
Good morning, sir.
Right, just complain to that road you talk about from Woodlands coming to the sugar factory. We one of the things is to that road, half is 2 lane and another half is 1 lane. So where you talk about the sign coming down, it should be absolutely marked 1 way. And at the bottom way part, next half should mark no entry. But they have some other sign there. But I think in modern day writing, I think we will try to make things too fancy and nice. So that is what causing these kind of a fancy sign saying this and that, right? Then what I observe from, like, let's say from the True Blue round, Sugar Mill roundabout, right up to inside at if in St. George's in town, if they could start with that, they should have, with this volume of traffic, we're supposed to paint a center line in this road now at this time. You know the white line, that white line, center line and the white. To show this is a left side and a right side. Keep your side. Because I noticed it painted a lot of the black and white on the side wall and thing, but I think that didn't need to be included in that road. That's a serious thing. And concerning the lady with what they say about the job doing the police, that, I mean, you as a gentleman do a lot of traveling. I live in countries that there's half of the country or quarter of the country. There's no policemen there. There's only 2 people that run in these areas, these places. A man called a captain and a basher. And they don't have all this bacchanal like what we have where police have to do this, police have to do this, everything. So I don't know, it's a culture thing and we're changing to, I don't know where we're going, but it's a different generation, but we need to be on our P and Qs. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
So as the caller mentioned, some of the things in terms of the road signs that we need to look into, how you design some things, there are a couple of things that come to mind. Our roundabouts, you realize sometimes they do the roundabouts. We have the Caricom roundabout and other roundabouts.
Yes.
Now, in some roundabout, they do a slope.
Yeah.
It's a bevel, and others, they do just a wall. Now, there's an advantage with the bevel and a disadvantage with just the wall. Mm-hmm. If you have the bevel, if somebody slips on it, less chance that you're going to damage your tire and less damage on the vehicle. So they need to reconsider the designs of the roundabout and make it a bit more user-friendly. Because it's easier for people to bang into it. If you have the bevel edges, it is more user-friendly and less damage on tires and vehicles if for some reason somebody veers off. What we have to also consider as the other road safety thing that there are some way you need to have raised markings. So in other words, if there's going to be a white marking, you can raise it so that when a vehicle comes on, you know that I am veering over rather than just to see. You should be able to feel just as well. So there are times, for instance, a good place to have those things implemented, coming from the CKs going to the sugar mill area where the vehicle merges coming from the airport. There's some place where you can probably put those kind of line, but raise it. So if a vehicle is veering too much on that space, it feels that, okay,
that little bump.
That little bump. I've seen it happen in other countries. As you come on now, you know that you're narrowing down, you're getting off that bump into another space.
Yes.
And finally, we spoke about the corrugated edges on roads, which could tell you when you are off the main surface and when you're getting onto the side. Those are some innovations that we think we need to get into. And very finally, one of the stronger things that we have throughout is the markings of our pedestrian across country. We've seen a lot of our visitors and other people bump, smash, damage the vehicles, lower vehicles, because there are quite a number of pedestrian crossings and bumps, the speed bumps, that are not painted.
All right. Let's take our final caller in this segment, and we got much more to talk about. We have to talk about Granatang. We can't.
Yes, we wouldn't go off without
we cannot go without Granatang. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Morning, and morning to Mr. McIntyre. The issue of no parking and stuff in St. George's, and we're through the trial and state, is a problem. However, I see some police vehicles parking on the sidewalk at certain areas on Melville Street. And it's a problem because pedestrians have to go around these vehicles, put their life in danger by walking in the road just to get around these vehicles. I mean, if I, as a civilian, are just going down to put a mail in a mailbox, and I climb the sidewalk and just get out of the vehicle to do that, and a police or warden see me, immediately I get in a ticket. You understand where I'm coming from? And then you have a notion or a saying that some officers are saying there is a lot they could do as they feel. I just shed a little light on that for me, please. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
No one is above the law. Law enforcement persons are still within the confines of the law and supposed to obey the law. But there are certain things that are adjusted to accommodate particular conditions. It may appear to be an infringement, but in some cases it's not necessarily the case. Police officers should and have to obey the law, but there are times when they would have to do certain things to facilitate a process at a given time. Albeit, in some cases, some people abuse that uselessly. We've seen the abuse of ambulances by health in some cases, the sirens. We've seen it sometimes maybe by the fire tenders, etc., where people use it indiscriminately or otherwise. But these are some things that should not be. But yes, despite they are supposed to abide by the law, there are some times when adjustment will have to be made to facilitate some conditions.
All right. So, Mac, we only have about 2 more minutes or so left on today's program, but I want to get your take on the Granatang project that just today, the Granatang Road project.
Well, we have been clamoring for stronger road safety measures in that area, and we also have been clamoring for widening of the corners or the bends in the road. And some self-relief is coming, where some attention has been given, I think, but Beryl has brought on some of it.
Beryl has brought,
maybe, where we had the land slippage. And as a result, maybe they capitalize on doing that one time. So we want to really commend that initiative. However, what we suggest, though, that the heavy-duty operators may not be necessarily technical or geotechnical people. And so they may be given a task to remove debris or landslide, etc., or to widen. But there need to be an engineering, a technical or geotechnical person to be there to actually direct how those slopes should be. We've seen some effort to do the terracing or what they call the benching of some of those areas, but they're not done the right way. If you look at some of these, it is precariously perched that those supposedly humped benches, they are going to slide in the not distant future because of how they've been done.
How it's been designed.
How it's been designed. You looked at that yourself.
I noticed that also.
That will happen. So we're saying that while the initiative is welcome, the widening and etc., I saw some boulders being removed and the dump is being placed on the opposite side. You get wider space. It's an opportunity now for us to create the proper drain, the widening. It is easier for people to see and make it more safe for people to go through. But that effort must continue in ensuring that we enhance the safety going through our rainforest, which is so beautiful.
All right. Mr. Mack, we come to that time of the morning we have to take a wrap for today's program. Pleasure to have you as always. Anything in closing before we take a wrap?
I would just want to advise Grenada, again, to be safe on our roads, be patient with each other, be considerate for other road users, as one caller did say, that the road space belongs to every one of us, motorists, pedestrians alike, and so we need to be considerate and to be look out for those who are not necessarily looking out for somebody else or something else.
All right, Mr. Mack, I want to thank you once again for being on the program this morning. Next week, once the Almighty permits, we will be back, and of course, for another discussion on road safety and all the other risk management we could, of course, in terms of information we can throw there for our listeners and viewers. Once again, folks, thanks for being with us this morning. Join us again tomorrow, once the Almighty permits, for another edition of To The Point. That's where we say goodbye.